The real estate market is going to crash in 2025. Or will it? That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2 Deals Show. Hey, Sub2ers, welcome to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to and creative finance. And occasionally we'll talk about something different, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. It's a snowy day here in Arkansas. Can you believe it? And the forecast for next week is 12 to 14 inches of snow on Tuesday. Man, I just can't believe it. I thought I was moving to the south. But anyway, so what we're talking about today is, will the real estate market crash or correct in 2025? And I'll tell you, and it depends on what you read and where you hang out. You'll see these predictions everywhere. It's really funny to see people, real estate agents, gurus and everybody in between. They all have an opinion about what it's going to do. But the truth is, none of us have the ability to predict the future, I think, as far as a crystal ball or anything like that. What we do use are the tools of experience and history and the clues along the way to tell us what will likely happen. I don't know how many of you were around in 2008, 2009. I'm guessing a large percentage of you that are watching or listening probably weren't. In fact, most of the people that are teaching real estate investing today were in high school then, which is really kind of funny. But I was around during that time, and I saw the things that happened. I see agents all the time. Not so much in the last few months, but let's just say a year ago, that would come on their little Facebook Lives and talk about, listen, buy a house today. The rates aren't going to get any better. The prices aren't going to get any lower. And we're going to see this trend continue for the next 5 years. And what we're seeing now is that that's probably not going to happen. But our best predictions on what is likely to happen is based on history and experience. Now, I'm going to share with you what we see when we are. A couple of years ago, Jody and I moved to Northwest Arkansas, and we stopped doing pretty much anything remote. And I still talk to an occasional seller that finds us online that lives somewhere. In fact, we're talking to a guy in Tennessee right now about his place. But for the most part, almost 100% of what we do is local. So I'm just going to share with you some things that we're seeing here in this marketplace. Now, we live in the NWA, Northwest Arkansas area, and hot or cold, whatever's happening, Northwest Arkansas is one of the fastest growing areas in the country. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but we're home to several large industries. Of course, the corporate office of Walmart is here, J.B. Hunt, Tyson Chicken. All of those guys and others are here, with more moving in all the time. And I saw a number recently that said something like 150 people move to Northwest Arkansas every single day. Now, I don't know if that number is accurate or true or not, but I know I've lived in some really big cities. I lived in Memphis for a while. I lived just south of Atlanta for several years. So I know what bad traffic is, but I'm going to tell you something. The infrastructure here is just not capable of handling the traffic that we have. The traffic here in this area is as bad or worse than what I've seen in major cities. It's just so congested because there's so many people out on the road every day. And there has been interstate and highway and road construction here all over the place every single day since we moved here. I mean, it's just nonstop. They're just trying to keep up. But that's just to give you an idea about where we are and, the kind of area that we live in, and what we're seeing. So being out in the trenches every day, we actually get to see what's going on. So I've got a few things for you here I want to share with you. And this is what we see. Now, understand this is compiled from a combination of things. One, actually being out in the marketplace, talking to a lot of sellers. We do have MLS access. So, I mean, we're inside what's actually happening, and we're not just relying on PropStream or some other tool to give us outdated information. I can log into the MLS any day and see exactly how many listings there are, price reductions, deals that have fallen out, I mean, everything else. But these are some of the things that we're seeing here right now. And this is after doing business here for a little over 2 years. A surprising number of properties are actually seeing a price reduction. And I'll tell you, when we first got started here, that was just unheard of. In fact, it was price increase after price increase after price increase. Somebody would list their house. 2 weeks later, if it was still on the market, they just raised the price and they still sold. And that's how things worked. In fact, a year ago, you didn't see price reductions on properties. And the average days on market were about 20. And that was a year ago. Things are a little bit different now. So prices here are a little bit flat. You don't see price increases. About 10% of the properties that are listed on the MLS right now have had recent price reduction. We actually farm the MLS for high day on market properties and do mailings to sellers. And every report we get every single week is just full of price reductions. So right now, there are about 3,000 residential real estate properties listed on the MLS in our 2-county area. And 10% of those have had a recent price reduction. So that's starting to happen here. Higher days on market. I just said last year, we were looking at about 20 days on market as an average. As of today, 93 days on market. And there are a lot of reasons why this has happened. 3 years ago, you could get a mortgage for under 3%. So, as of today, they're just a tad under 7%. So mortgage rates have more than doubled. And what that means just in real dollars is that in 2022, you could buy a $360,000 house. And that's the median price for a home here in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, houses are still, compared to some parts of the country, somewhat affordable, but they're getting more expensive every day. But you could, if you bought a $360,000 house, your payment, your principal and interest payment, was around $1,500 a month. Today, that same house will cost you over $400,000, and the payment, get this now, the payment for that same house from 3 years ago is about $2,700. So not quite double, but close enough. Imagine that. Now with taxes and insurance, that payment's going to be over $3,000 a month. And that's just an insane amount of money for a house here. Another thing we're seeing are a lot of seller concessions. Now, again, I just go back to a year ago. Hey, listen, sellers wouldn't give you anything. In fact, sellers were in the catbird seat. I mean, I know when we sold some houses on the MLS, listen, we didn't give anybody anything. They paid closing costs. We didn't negotiate. They didn't ask. In fact, offers out of the gate would be above full price. That's not happening now. And so that's something a little bit new. Being in MLS, it's common now to see $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in seller concessions to sell a house. And that's on top of a price reduction. So what does that mean? Well, I don't know. Is it going to continue that way? Is this just a little hiccup? I don't know. It's been getting slower for a while, and I think it's really going to continue. Notes and listings indicating motivation. Boy, that's something that's come back that's been gone for a while. In fact, they just built a house next door to us a few months ago, and that guy has tried to rent that house. Of course, he's a little bit optimistic in what he thinks he can get for it. But I noticed his listing yesterday has notes now that he's open to a lease option. So he's open to some other things as well. So sellers are a little bit more motivated than they used to be. There are a lot more deals out there than there used to be. I see a lot of rehabbers in trouble. And that came from paying too much for a property. I saw a wholesaler trying to sell a deal yesterday, and his comments as far as details about the property were, um, and this wasn't here local, this was somewhere else, but um, purchase price 125, needs 25,000 in repairs, ARV 158. And I'm like, how in the heck is anybody going to make any money with that? In fact, I talked to someone the other day here locally that was trying to tell me that I should buy this deal, this house. He would sell it for 200,000. He has an appraisal for 240, and it needs paint and carpet. And so I could probably spend 15 or 20 and still make a decent profit. And I don't know what these guys think a decent profit is. I see these rehabbers in MLS, and I'll just take a quick look through PropStream, and it's obvious that an investor bought it. But they'll purchase a house with a $300,000 ARV. They'll pay 225 for it, spend what I know based on the pictures had to be $30,000 to $40,000 fixing it up. And then try to sell it for 300. Now you can't pay 225, put 40 into it and pay, or even if you're getting a discount broker to sell it for you, you're trying to sell a $300,000 house for a $25,000 margin. And I'm going to tell you, that's just not enough. It's just not enough. So what happens is these houses sit on the market for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And then the price reductions start $100 at a time because they don't have any margin to continue. Don't find yourself in that place. I tell all of my students to buy houses, to do deals with certainty. And projecting a $25,000 profit on a $300,000 house is not certainty. The realtor is going to make more money than you do, or the same, and that's just not acceptable. You should make at least what you spent fixing it up, if not more, to even consider the deal. I saw a guy that had a house listed. He paid $250,000. This was just last week. He paid $250,000 cash for this house. Now I don't know if that was his cash or somebody else's, but he's a local investor here that buys about a half dozen houses a year. And I don't know how in the heck he does it because, he's got this house listed for 310. He paid 250 for it. I know he had cost involved in closing it. He's got cost involved in selling it. And it's just sitting on the market. As you look at the pictures of the inside, I don't guess he had enough margin to even stretch the carpet. It had wrinkles in it. I mean, it just looks old and tired. And I'm telling you, when people are having to pay these kind of prices and pay for this kind of financing, they're going to pick these things apart. So if you're rehabbing, you can't afford to do crappy work either. And then the last thing is just the general political climate. Now, I'm not here to talk about politics. I don't care who you like or don't like, or who you vote for. That doesn't matter. I don't care about any of those guys. What I care about is how what they do affects me. And that's all I'm worried about. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? You may like who's in office right now. That's fine. But you need to consider how what they do is going to affect you. Now, I say that to say, what if there are tariffs on Canada? What if they are? Some people are for them, some against them. But if what I saw the other day is true, and we get 60% of our lumber from the Great White North, what is that going to do to prices when you fix up your next house? I don't know. Something to think about. But anyway, just all of those things combined, what do we take away from this? And I would just say 2 years ago, for the last 3 years, up until about a year ago, an absolute idiot could make money in real estate. It didn't take anything. If you could find somebody that would sell you a house, I'm telling you, I've seen people pay full price for a house, and before they could flip it, they could make a profit. Those days are over. Things are getting back to normal where you have to have some gray matter. You have to think about things. You have to really analyze comp underwrite, I think is the word of the day. You have to know what properties are worth, how long it's going to take you to sell them, what it's going to cost you to fix them, if that's what you do, and have some accurate numbers. You can't just go willy-nilly out there. I see people do that with Sub2 all the time. If I can get a deed, I should take it. I saw a guy trying to sell a house this week that has no cash flow. It has no equity. And I commented on it and I said, hey, the deal doesn't have cash flow. It doesn't have equity. Where's the deal? It's got to have one or the other, and preferably both. And all he said was, I know. But he's still out there marketing it, trying to sell it. And some crazy person will probably buy it. Now, I'll buy a no equity deal all day long. Okay. And I've given those examples before. I'm not worried about a price drop. Okay. What I'm worried about, if I'm buying a no equity deal, if I'm buying a $300,000 house for $280,000 with a 2.5% note where my payment is $1,500 a month, then I know I can get $2,000 a month for that as a rental. That may be my plan B. That may be my worst case scenario. If the price value of that home drops to $250,000 and I can still make a couple $100 a month in cash flow and depreciation to offset other income, that can still be a good deal for me. But if you're rehabbing and you don't have margins, you can have a problem. And I'm not going to buy a house that doesn't have cash flow, that doesn't have equity. I've seen people promote those and say they were appreciation plays. Appreciation you can't count on. And I think a lot of people are going to see that coming up real soon in this market. So caution is the word. Certainty is the word. Buy deals with certainty. Don't take on several rehabs at once. I can't imagine having several rehabs in various stages of completion sitting out there right now, especially if I didn't do a really good job of buying them. And I'll give you an example of a good job. Now, this thing hasn't closed on the sell side yet, and I don't like to talk about numbers generally, but I'll give you guys an idea. We door knock and mail some foreclosure literature. And depending on what our schedule's like and how far out the house is, sometimes I'll drop it in the mail. And we sent out a package a couple of weeks ago to a lady. And it's just got a letter in there, and it explains what we do and that we can help if she wants to keep her house. Well, she's already bought another house with a new boyfriend. And she's moved out of this house, and she didn't care about it anymore. So she called me and she says, how can you help me? And I said, well, do you want to keep your house? She said, no, I just want to get rid of it. And I said, so what do you need? And she said, I just want to get rid of it. If you can just take it, that would be great. This lady owed $91,000 on this house. The final numbers on the reinstatement were a little over $9,000. A quarter of that was attorney fees because she was only 4 months behind on her payments. Payments on this house are under $900 a month, PITI, probably rent for $16,000. But the value of this house, and this house is in really good condition, it needs paint and flooring. The value on this house is between $240,000 and $270,000. If I can buy that house for $91,000, well, let's just say $100,000, does that deal give me certainty? Well, you bet. This house was a little farther out than we liked. It was a little more rural. And so we just decided we wanted to unload it. So we threw it on Facebook Marketplace, and within a couple of hours, we had somebody that went out, drove out, said, I want it, I'll take it. We priced that house at $165,000. So we bought it for $100,000 and we sold it for $165,000. Our buyer's paying all the closing costs. Our closing costs were $25 because we closed with a notary, recorded our deed. That was our total cost of purchase. So our net on this house, and listen, our buyers gave us $20,000 cashier's check to hold the house for them. So I'm fairly certain they're going to buy it. So that's almost a $65,000 net profit on a flip. Now that deal had certainty. Those people are buying it to live in it. They're a young couple, and they'll put $20,000 in that house. So they'll have under $200,000 in it and have some nice sweat equity and a nice home. And so it was a win for everybody. That lady that sold it to me, she said, hey, I just want to get rid of it. I don't want to have a foreclosure. I've got another house now. And a little bit of research will go a long way. This lady bought this house 7 years ago and she didn't put anything down. I mean, she got an FHA loan. She put bare minimum down. She bought it for 109 and she got a loan for 108. So she had very little money in that house. She didn't care about it. But those are the kind of deals that I'll be doing. Those are the only kind that we do these days. And I would advise that you have a lot of caution and we swing for the fences when we do these things now. Don't take marginal deals. Only do deals with certainty, and especially if you're newer. Now, Jody and I, we've been doing this for a really long time. We've had a lot of luck. We've been blessed. We've been very successful. We have a war chest to operate from. We can make a mistake, and it won't take us out. If you're new and you don't have that war chest to fall back on, you've especially got to be careful, and you don't want to screw up. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody off of real estate. When I got started, I didn't have any money. I borrowed $5,000 to open a bank account and do things. I had credit. My first couple of deals I did with small local banks. I'm not trying to scare anybody away from real estate, but the realities are it takes effort and there is some risk. And I know a lot of people don't talk about that, but that's the way it is. So I would rather you make an informed decision. I'm just telling you to be careful in the deals that you do. So will the market crash this year? Gosh, who knows? Okay. What I do know is that if you know what you're doing, you can make money in a good market, in a bad market. Doesn't make any difference. Based on experience and the history, it's looking likely that a correction will take place. Will it happen this year? Will it roll over into next year? Who knows? But we know things can't continue on the path that they have. I remember in 2008, something very similar to now was happening. Prices were increasing like crazy. People were bidding houses up, and you'd put a house on the market in California and have 50 people trying to buy it. And I remember saying then, there's no way that kind of path can continue. If it does, a starter home will be, $5 million in a couple of years. There's no way it can happen. And sure enough, we got a correction, didn't we? But anyway, there are a lot of people out there in trouble. There are a lot of people that aren't paying their mortgages. The banks have covered it up, but it's starting to come out now. You see more people reaching out to you. You see more people in the foreclosure filings. So don't let anything stupid take you out. So anyway, hope that helps, guys. Just my observations on it from somebody that's been doing it for 25 years. So hope you guys are having a wonderful week. You're talking to a lot of sellers and making some stuff happen. Listen, we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. If you listen on Apple, give us a 5-star review. It helps people find the podcast. Subscribe to our channel. Here, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to do that. We still release a few videos and podcasts here and there, not as consistent as we need to be. We're trying to improve on that. But listen, we're busy buying houses. You should be too. So we'll talk to you guys next time. So get out there, talk to some sellers, buy some houses.